And what's going on, YouTube? I am back here with another movie review tonight, which I am going to review the movie called Yesterday. So stay tuned for that review coming up right now. All right, so Yesterday. Now, upon seeing this trailer, this was definitely something that I thought was really intriguing, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to attend the screening because I I predominantly did not think this would be something I would want to go pay for. So I definitely wanted to make sure I got a chance to be able to see it. And plus, it comes out June 28th, and I'm seeing it literally a month earlier. So I thought it was definitely the wise decision since there was a ton of other things that was being screened this weekend. But I did pick this. And Yesterday, if you haven't seen the trailer, is a British comedy film, which is directed by Danny Boyle. You may have seen him from other films like 28 Days Later and 127 Hours and Slumdog Millionaire, which was a really, really good movie that I enjoyed. And basically, this movie was about it's about a struggling artist, and he had some things going in his life, and anybody that's kind of obsessed with a goal tend to put other things on the back burner or other people. And he had a conniption that happened upon an accident, and it really took the story to another level. So first of all, this movie stars a couple of people that is worth acknowledging other things they've been in as well. So the lead of this movie is by a guy named Himesh Patel, which I am not familiar with, and he plays the main character as Jack Malik. Now Lily James, who the character she plays is Ellie Appleton, is somebody that you may have seen from other movies. One of my favorite being Cinderella, and it was in Baby Drama and Mamma Mia. So and I really am a big fan of hers, and I thought before I even get to the points later about people's performance, I'm just gonna throw it out there now. I thought her performance was really good in this. Can't forget that Kate McKinnon's in this movie too, who plays one of his other friends. Who, again, when you think about the comedic relief in this movie, she adds to it, coming off of stuff like was it Girls Night, and she's from SNL. So a big actress, but she definitely plays kind of a smaller role in this movie. Also, you had some world popular musicians in it. Notably, Ed Sheeran had a big role in here. Joel Fry, who played the character Rocky. Oh, and by the way, Ed Sheeran played himself in this movie. But Joel Fry, who played Rocky in this movie, funny character, is also somebody that was in Game of Thrones. But like I said, this movie was basically about a magician and Jack who he struggled. He played in your local bars, and he did like bingo hall stuff, and he really was just trying to catch a break. And during this time, Ellie, who's been his friend for over 20 years, was just on his side. She was his tour manager, or just manager period. They got bookings for him and so forth. But she continuously kept trying to get him to push on, and even when other opportunities came about, he got a raise or a better position at his job, she was the one that was basically telling him that, keep pursuing this, something's going to work out. So she stuck by him the entire time in the movie, no matter what. But one night, upon dropping him off, he decided his ways of commute was his bike, and something strange happened in the world, and the world went black for 12 seconds, completely black, all over the world black, lights out, all electricity, everything. And when this happened, poor Jack got hit by a bus, and he ended up in the hospital. And best believe the first person he's seen when he wakes up is Ellie. they blame the blackout in being some type of like solar flare that went through the earth and caused a blackout for 12 seconds. But they didn't emphasize a lot on that, which I'm glad, because I was like, I hope this is not going to be one of those type of things where we're trying to explain a theory and so forth. But they continue with the story. But interesting enough, when Jack woke up, he lost his two front teeth, and they made jokes about that. His friends was there to throw him a party, and they were, really good childhood friends. Some were from childhood, and some were in his adult career, which they all worked in the school system, and they threw him a party. They got him a lot of little funny things like chattering teeth to remind him that he lost his teeth. But ultimately, they bought him a brand new guitar because when he did get hit by the bus, his guitar got ran over, which was obviously his life. It's how he made his music and so forth. So he played his life. He played one of his gifts was a guitar, and he played the song. One of the songs, and the first song he played was "Yesterday" by the Beatles. And everyone was so wowed by the song. They said, "Oh, it's such a lovely song. I can't believe you wrote such a beautiful song." He's like, "What do you mean? I didn't write that. Like, you guys don't know that song?" Come to find out, Jack is, I don't know, I guess he kind of brushed it off for a second, but more and more reminders arose where he finally realized that when he woke up the next day, no one on earth could remember who the Beatles were. And he basically woke up in a different timeline, and this ultimately took him to a whole nother level of stardom, because he had this really brilliant idea where maybe if none of his old songs worked, maybe he can use these songs that no one's ever heard of, some of the greatest songs of all time, to reach his stardom. Yeah, so now I got to kind of look over my notes a little bit about some of the things I wrote down upon watching this movie. So again, he woke up in a world where no one knew who the Beatles were, arguably one of the best groups of all time, some classic music through like light years. I mean, throughout the centuries, like still people play, and they still hold so much relevance to this time, to this day and time. I will say that if you are not a Beatles fan, or at least know enough of the Beatles, this movie would totally get you lost at points, because there are so many, there's tons of Beatles references and puns. So it's definitely like really valued that you know at least something, so that some of these jokes kind of land and resonate with you. And not even just that, upon him writing some of the music, because his idea again was to say, I'm going to use this music that no one's ever heard of to reach a new level of stardom. And of course he had he had moments where he couldn't remember the lyrics and so forth, and he really struggled. I mean, literally he botched a lot of these songs because he did not know the words. But then again, upon trying to get motivation for the lyrics, he did visit a lot of the historical Beatles locations, where a lot of the motivation and so forth for their songs came from. And again, a lot of it just won't make sense if you just have no knowledge of it. So upon him writing music, rehearsing, putting it online and stuff like that, he was noticed by Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran brought him on a tour of his, and this is where, ever since this new timeline he's in, he's meeting all these new people. Ed Sheeran's manager, and he's also got like a fashion manager to up his look. And anybody he pretty much meets ever since he started, becoming to fame, has been really like douchey to him. Like douchey Ed Sheeran was enjoyable. His stage manager, very enjoyable to their character, and it brings a lot of the comedic factor to this movie. Outside of that, you see he knows his other things that are missing from this timeline. There is no Coca-Cola, there's no cigarettes, there's no Harry Potter. And upon him using Google search to figure out if these things exist, because it's wiped out everywhere on the internet and so forth, there's a lot of like humor in the other things that pop up. Like for instance, you look up Coke and Pablo Escobar pops up, and so it was like little funny stuff like that happens. Also, too, I mentioned him earlier, but Rocky, who's played by Joel Fry, he goes on tour with him. Originally, when he decides that he's going to go on tour with Ed Sheeran, he had to decide who was available. And he looked at his childhood friends. He even, obviously, the easy choice here was Ellie, but Ellie is a school teacher, and she didn't want to leave that behind because that's something that she was real passionate about. So he did bring Rocky, who was just a bum living on people's couches, and that type of guy that just like out there kind of space eves, always getting drunk, just always just doing silly stuff. But he provided another really comedic relief in this movie that I enjoyed as well. But upon his rise to stardom, he does like really lose sight of some of the good values that was right in front of him. And I thought this movie did do a good job in some of the good lifely values and lessons that people should know. One of the big things is that, he was chasing this dream and this idea of like, not just the music, but just being recognized, appreciated, and happy in the things he's doing, when technically everything that he really wanted was right in front of him the entire time. I mean, he was in love with Ellie the entire time, and she stood by him through rejection, through being friend zoned a lot of times, the side kisses and everything. And he just kind of like just took it for advantage because it was just always there until he actually went on tour and realized that she wasn't there, and then she ended up finding love, and then he realizes like he's made the mistake of not being the one of being honest and actually pursuing something that was just there with him the entire time. One of the bit scares in this movie for him as well too is upon him using the Beatles songs, there was two strangers that was also not affected by this memory loss or this second timeline, and they knew the Beatles song, and so he finally meets them, and then they're just like, yeah, so we know these are not your songs or whatever, and he's worried because he thinks he's going to jail or he's just going to lose his fame and whatever it may be. But they were actually really nice. The strangers were pretty much they were just happy to hear Beatles song because they said, a life without the Beatles is like infinitely bad. So they really appreciated that, they weren't just the only ones crazy, knowing who they were, no one else did. And they were just happy to be able to hear the music. And then they actually passed him a life value note of saying like, a life suggestion saying, here's some research we've been doing. We found out this, and it sends him on his last adventure for the movie. And he after the bike accident, pretty much everyone in his new life was really pretty much about his money, and they just treated him like he was just an object. And you can see it. It's even verbally expressed by the tour manager at times that you're just really just my object of money. And and all his childhood friends that was there for him always still supported him, but he realized it wasn't the happiness that he was looking for. So he ends up going back. He does one more tour. He dedicates it to Lydia's girl. They end up rekindling their thing, and they kind of ride off on. So really a really good feel good moment and so forth. But I'm out here saying Lily because her name is Ellie, but now I'm talking about Ellie. Lily James puts on a really good performance. Lily James reminds me of Brie Larson a lot. Somebody who embraces a lot of emotion in their performance and really has a really dynamic range of emotion instead of just that really stale one look for each emotion thing. I think she's really good. I think she's really becoming into her own. So I was really high on her performances. Other things I say about this movie is that it's kind of funny to see him botch a lot of the Beatles songs. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, they have so many hits. I know no one knows all the words unless you're just a super fan. But even with that being said, I really do feel like if you're going to watch this movie, you need to be some sort of a fan to really understand what's happening with the movie as far as the jokes and how some of the motivation behind some of the songs and a lot of the historical locations or where they go for in the songs. But it was really cool to see a good like union with his childhood friends to be with him throughout the whole movie. I really appreciated seeing something like that. And other than that, I think that my last note about this is that, I mean, this movie isn't getting entirely good ratings online, and I don't think it's well deserved, but I could understand why. This would be something I do not think I would go pay to go see because I'm not a super Beatles fan. I know enough, but not enough to like have to overly to go top to see it. But I did know that the super Beatles fans that was in these movies, you can tell they really much enjoyed it. So if you are a big Beatles fan, I think you will. But if not, I think there's something you want to rent. But overall, I think the movie was good, and I think it for the 2 hours that it was, it breezed by. It's 160 minutes, yeah, about 2 hours. So really good, really good pace, and I enjoyed it. So anyway, I hope you liked the review, and let me know what you think whenever you see the movie. It comes out June 28th, so you got about a month to go. But yep, that's all I got, and I'll see you next time for the next review.
I do this.